Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Hero Movie Podcast, your greatest source for superhero movie discussion in the multiverse. I am your host, Adam Portress, and I'm joined by Sweet Sean Kovacs from the internet.
In the early 2000s, if you went to a karaoke place and you saw me there, this is the song that I would hit. You're welcome.
And of course, Bruce Leslie.
I'm a prickly pear, and I always stuck to Raining Men.
I would like to see both of those done by you gentlemen. I'm not going to lie to you. I think that would be a very good time. Now, Sean, is it mostly because Thunderstruck has a 17-minute opener for about like 2.5 minutes worth of lyrics, maybe?
I may be remembering it wrong, but I think that it's reduced in the karaoke. What I can tell you is that I used to be able to do a pitch perfect impression of the singer, and the person running the karaoke bar would get very angry indeed that I was doing an impersonation instead of just honestly singing it for some reason.
Yeah, I kind of take on a little bit of the persona if ever I do a bit of the karaoke. I feel like that's part of the theatrics of it all.
I used to kill it.
I knew a guy that at karaoke, he would do that Inya song with like the Indian chant, but the only part he would sing is the Indian chant.
Oh,
I like that.
Classy.
Bruce, you'll remember a guy that we know named Snyder. He would always do that song from the Crash Test Dummies from the 90s. That
Yep.
And he would do it in his standard monotone voice, and you're like, who chooses this? And then when you realize it was Snyder, it all made sense.
I only know Norm from the Lake.
Oh, Norm from the Lake is way better, though. The guy's got a lot of bread on him. We are back, everybody, and this week we are taking to Netflix once again to assure that I'll continue paying for their service as they put out things just frequently enough for to keep me on board, you know? So this week we are talking Thunder Force, starring Melissa McCarthy and Octavia Spencer. And yeah, that was a comic book. We'll get on into it. But before we do want to say a big thank you to the people who make this show happen and support us over at patreon.com/HMP. Those fine, upstanding citizens get the pre-show, post-show, and of course, the Dinger Zone. And this week we have another name to add to that list. Matt Evans has come in at the £4 a month donation.
Whoa!
I'm not good on my international exchange rates, but I'm pretty sure that's like $186 US, right?
It is. It's like Bitcoin.
It's like Bitcoin. You don't know what it is.
$56,000.
I mean, it's a hell of a... I appreciate it, Matt. So, my goodness.
Yeah, once I got paid 27 pounds, and it was like $50 after the exchange fee or whatever. So it's pretty good.
You feel like a billionaire.
90,000 pounds in my pajamas. Oh. Keep going.
So let's get Matt here a nickname. Sean, what do you got for him?
Matt Evans. I'm not going to lie to you. It's the first thing that popped in my head when Adam told me that there's a new Patreon member. First of all, welcome to the team. Secondly, your HMP nickname is now He-Hulk.
I love that one.
That's pretty good. He's even more macho than the regular Hulk. This guy's got a mustache.
Oh, man.
To paraphrase Ford Fairlane. Clint Eastwood. I'm kidding. I won't say the rest of it. This is a family show.
Indeed. But Matt, head on over to...
that name is He-Hulk, sir.
He-Hulk. I'm so sorry. If you want to be like He-Hulk and all the other fine people that support this show, just head on over to patreon.com/HMP. Join up today. However big or small, just whatever it means something to you, you get all the benefits there. And if you would like to drop us value for value on the Breeze or Sphinx app, those are open there for you as well. Links in the show notes if you know what that means. Crank up those value sliders. Let us hear something. Those are starting to trickle in and everything. It's really cool to see digital coinage coming to you live through podcasting apps. Future's coming, boys and girls. All right, let's get into it. Here is the trailer for Thunder Force.
Hi, I'm here to see Emily Stanton.
Do you have an appointment?
I'm her best friend. We're not currently what I would say best friends or friends.
You look good. You look great.
What have you been up to?
Let me show you. I've been developing a genetic platform that will allow us to give ordinary people superpowers. But do me a favor, please. Don't touch anything. Oh, dear God, Lydia. Do you have any idea what you've done? You just took our only formula for super strength. Everything about you will become stronger.
my groin. Do chicks have groins? What's your superpower?
Invisibility.
That's awesome. Let's see what these powers can really do.
Everyone just stay calm and no one's gonna get hurt.
Em, stop! You're cooking them from the inside out!
Oh man.
Please don't film this, sir. It's a mistake! Thunder Force, remember it.
For the first time in history, we're seeing real-life superheroes fighting crime.
I play dirty.
But we're also seeing a new kind of criminal.
This city deserves what's coming to it. Boom.
It's go time.
Oh, we've got to rethink this car.
Yeah.
How can we not stop two chicks in their 40s?
God, what's that smell?
It's the suits! We can't wash them! Lydia, do not throw that bus. I can't hear you because I'm literally throwing a bus! I'm sorry. That's on me.
The hell are you?
You'd think Cancer, but Capricorn actually, Sag Moon, and all kinds of things rising.
That's messed up.
Alrighty, that was the trailer for Thunder Force, starring Melissa McCarthy, Octavia Spencer, Jason Bateman, Bobby Cannavale, Melissa Leo, and more. It is available now on Netflix. Here's the plot line from IMDb. As we know, IMDb always 100% correct in everything they say and or do. In a world where supervillains are commonplace, two estranged childhood best friends reunite after one devises a treatment that gives them powers to protect their city. This is written and directed by Mr. Melissa McCarthy, Ben Falcone. I didn't know, you didn't know, but you know who does know and can tell us all about it?
It's time for Bruce's Comic Book Connection.
Bruce, what do you got for us?
Well, personally, I think everybody ought to have a superhero they can dress up as if they so desire. And being who I am, I think this extends to adults as well as children. I mean, come on. There's a reason I like the Blob so much. When I was a chubby fifth grader, it looked ridiculous if I tried to dress up like Batman or Wolverine. But the Blob, well, though I never tried, I got a certain comfort knowing I could pull that off. There is a certain value to finding characters that look like you, even if not everyone agrees or sees the appeal. Now, I had the Blob, but who is out there for the women and girls with Rubenesque figures like mine? I'm sure there might be a rare one here and there, but were any of them superheroes? Well, of all people, Jim Shooter, the man who had a strange penchant for making superheroes strike their wives and or girlfriends, stepped in to shore up any doubts about realistic female superheroes. He did this at Valiant Comics with Faith Herbert, a.k.a. Zephyr. She debuted in Harbinger #1 in 1992 and looked more like our moms and aunts than she did a supermodel or CrossFit instructor. She soared through the skies. She had the power of flight plus the ability to generate a companion field around nearby people and objects, carrying them telekinetically along her path. Though created in 1992, it was her 2016 revival that really seemed to catch the appreciation of a public that had previously ignored her. Faith was named one of the 16 best comics of 2016 by Nerdist. It was named one of the 7 best comics and graphic novels of 2016 by Barnes & Noble. The first volume of the trade paperback was named one of the best comics and graphic novels of 2016 by Amazon, as well as being nominated for the 2016 Young Adult Library Services Association Quick Picks for Reluctant Young Adult Readers. This more realistically shaped woman was finally well-loved. A magazine that rarely covers comic book news, Teen Vogue, ran a feature story on Faith. Excited that the character was in development for a feature film, though sadly Bloodshot may have killed that project. Here's a quote from Sci-Fi Wire regarding the hero. Quote, "When you read a story with a happy plus-size girl, it makes you re-examine decades of cultural norms that treat fatness, especially among women, as the ultimate ill and a shameless excuse for mockery. Being a girl or woman any bigger than rail thin in pop culture meant you were destined to be identified entirely by your size. It meant endless scenes of staring sadly at scales, of being the woman in the bar who the schlubby fat bros look at with derision, and countless montages of binge eating that the audience was supposed to laugh at. End quote. Wow, that quote seems to be ironically guilty of what they are accusing others of. But I guess they pull it out in the final act with, quote, "What makes Faith taking flight soar is its uncrushable optimism. The overwhelming mood is one of happiness and positivity for the future. Faith has options ahead of her, and that in and of itself is radical. She is unconstrained by sizeism, and what could be more joyful than that? I agree. People being happy makes me happy. So keep going, comics. Keep bringing a tiny bit of comfort in an all too uncomfortable world."
Whereas I delight in your sorrow. So, bring it on either way. I kid. I was not aware of this movie until probably maybe 3 weeks ago when I just submitted that we would do it just on account of, hey, superhero stuff. It's new. It's on Netflix. And, it's got some pretty decent, I'll say this, popularity on IMDb. I don't know what that particularly means, but it's trending in the upwards. Maybe that's just people who look for it. Maybe that's people that love it. I don't know.
I guess the first question I want to throw out there to get this conversation started, if we were not affected by the public health crisis, would they have tried to release this theatrically? Was this supposed to be theatrical, or is this straight up made for Netflix?
It's made for Netflix, yeah?
Yeah. Yes. 100%.
It really has the feel of like one of those Adam Sandler made for Netflix movies.
Yes. This is definitely a made for Netflix movie. I don't know what the budget on this thing was. I'm guessing it's around that sweet spot for Netflix, which is like 30 million.
Yeah, I was thinking 2030 just by looking at it.
But like 2006, this thing goes straight to the theaters though, right?
2006, maybe.
Yeah. But at this point now, one of the nice things about these direct to Netflix, direct to Amazon, direct to streaming is that it is making way for the mid-budget movie again, which is great because that didn't exist for a while. And so now we're seeing this again. You have to have a big star in order to make it, Melissa McCarthy or Adam Sandler or whomever, but you have the opportunity to see something that's mid-budget again, which means that you have to be smarter and you have to be more clever. And in order to get the eyeballs on your movie, you're going to need to make something good, basically, for people to watch it. And if you don't have a good idea, if you have an idea that has been done to death already, at least do it a little differently, which is what this movie is. This movie is exactly, we've seen it 1,000 times before, 1,000 different ways. But the difference this time is that it's two middle-aged ladies.
Yeah, the dynamic of it makes it feel more fresh than it normally would if it was just, people in their early 20s. If that was this movie, you'd be like, why am I watching this? I just don't care about that. And I think you're right. They built up this great cast that when you watch that trailer, you're like, oh, I like this person. I like this person. Then you get to the end, you're like, Jason Bateman is in this? All right. Like most people are on board at that point. Just because you've seen enough people that you like.
Jason Bateman.
Yeah. I'll admit I came into this with fairly low expectations because, listen, we described everything to you. You've heard the trailer. I think you've got at least a decent idea as to what this movie is, and I thought it was better than what I had imagined it to be. I'll put it that way.
It felt kind of like a Robert Rodriguez kids movie made for grown-ups.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly the feel of it. Yes, that's a perfect way to describe it. And you know exactly what you're getting when you watch. You think you know exactly what you're going to get when you see this movie, and it is in fact exactly what you thought it was going to be.
Yet, I think that's where Bruce's last little statement there for an adult audience comes into play. Because if this was like a kids movie, like that movie was, we'd be very, very upset with it because it would just be terrible. But at least this goes the kind of, I would say, decently hard PG-13. For what for the innuendos and all that kind of stuff. You wouldn't feel bad playing this in front of a 14-year-old who's going to think that they're watching something that's a little bit more dirty than it actually is.
You could feel that at some point they kind of wanted to go for Bridesmaids level R. You know what I mean?
Maybe.
But they didn't go for it. They didn't dive on into it. But you said something else here, Sean. You said this is like, a million stories we've seen, only this time it's with 40-plus-year-olds or whatever. Mm-hmm. I think there's a little bit more to it because, like, when I went and saw Mr. Nobody, I was like, finally, John Wick with a Gen X guy. But, of course, Keanu's probably older than Bob Odenkirk.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
But so. It's not just about the age. It's about looking relatable. Yeah. So there's more to it because, you could take Charlize Theron and Angelina Jolie, a couple of 40, 50-year-olds, and you're not going to have the same response you do with these leads.
Precisely. I think they're in just about the exact same age bracket, the two of them. So, yes, that's a way different movie.
Heather Graham is 51 years old, and take a look at her. It's insane.
Don't mind if I do. I'll be right back.
Elizabeth Hurley, by the way. Oh, my God. Elizabeth Hurley doesn't look a day over 40 years old. Like, and that's pushing it. She is still just unbelievable. Her Instagram alone is just like, you feel like you're, there's no old lady that should be this hot. Man.
I like the way you say no old lady should be this hot. Like
I know, and I say that with love and respect. I'm all about it.
Apparently I think we've got a new idea for your podcast, your groundbreaking podcast, Adam.
All right.
Just old ladies who are hot. You just go week by week.
Oh man, that'd be a good show actually. Be
new
like,
old hot ladies.
Listen, let's talk about this. But I had a lot more fun with this than I expected that I would. I really loved the beginning part, which I think is what really threw me off, because the idea is when you see the trailer, for the most part, except for like a quick cutaway, it's just all the adults. The kid portion of this movie played out a lot longer than I would have expected it to, and on account of that, I actually cared for these two main characters because we got some actual story involved, where a lesser movie I don't think would do that.
And there's something going back even to the very, very beginning of this. Like, it talks about the event that brought superpowers into the world, and like the same genetic predisposition to getting superpowers was the same one that caused one to be a psychopath. I thought that was kind of a nice twist I've never really seen dealt with before. Maybe it's an obvious parallel to, some folks say, like, by definition, to go high in politics or business, you have to be a psychopath. There's some folks that say that sort of thing. I don't know if they were intentionally dealing with that, but I found that to be kind of a nice little twist. Kind of matches up with a Brandon Sanderson book series that I think Sean and I have read, where it's only supervillains, no superheroes.
Yeah, that's great. Ironheart,
Steelheart, the Reckoners series. Yeah.
The thing about this movie is that when, I don't always do this, but I do it with comedians who have been around the block a bit, and I think Melissa McCarthy can be considered that at this point. There was the breakout role she had, and I know that women everywhere know her from Gilmore Girls, but no dude watched that show.
No.
And so no guy knew her from Gilmore Girls. So when she shows up in Bridesmaids, Bridesmaids was the big one for her.
Right. For people that are outside of 50 plus or something, because those people were all watching her on CBS.
Oh, I see. Mike
and Molly.
The whole Mike and Molly thing. That was like the larger. I think once you get like Gen X and back, we all got to know her on Bridesmaids. You're right.
Totally forgot that was a show that existed. Mm-hmm. So when she shows up in Bridesmaids and she steals the show, and then her next, she does a couple other movies, but then her next really great movie is The Heat. That movie's awesome. I don't care who you are. Yes, that is a great movie.
And Spy.
I like Spy a lot too.
I'm not a huge fan of that movie, but
I understand why though.
Yes. So you go, and then she keeps making diminishing return movies after that. Kind of like a Robin Williams would do, or a Billy Crystal would do, somebody like that, where, okay, you're running out of fresh ideas, you're hitting the same notes, but you're still the same person. So when it comes down to this movie here, I am kind of short sheeting her bed a little bit. And that was a mistake because I forget there was a reason why this lady is famous in the first place. And she can pull some stuff off. I mean, not every joke lands, not every joke is funny, but she does have bits where it's only funny because it's her. And it's very funny. Like there are very funny moments in here. And it's specifically because it's her delivering the line. And I did not see that part coming because I thought that the secret sauce to this movie was going to be Octavia Spencer. And I still think it is. Octavia Spencer is incredible in this movie. You know what this movie really is? This movie feels like Melissa McCarthy and her husband, whose name I forget.
Falcone.
Yeah. Ben.
It feels like they pulled in every favor they needed from every famous person they had and made this movie. And for that reason, this movie is better than I expected it to be. But like I said in the pre-show, I cannot tell you anything about this movie that isn't the weird crab sex stuff.
Now, I do want to say when we're talking about diminishing returns on her career, I think part of the reason for that is she suddenly formed this very loyal partnership with her husband. But when you look at the movies that she's been in that were all written and directed by her husband, that's when you start to see they're not quite up to where she was before then. So, I admire the, you find somebody you enjoy working with. There's a value to that beyond dollars. So I don't begrudge her that, but I think that might be part of it. And then I also wonder if she's going to be set up kind of like, I don't know, somebody like Eddie Murphy to have another big phase in her career years down the road, like to make the comeback. Because she certainly, I think, got what it takes to do it. And she still has a very loyal fan base among moms. I can tell you that.
Yeah. And there's also the other aspect to her, which is that she's still young enough to where, she's the one playing like I'm a loser and I'm going to have a boyfriend, but the boyfriend I have right now sucks, like that kind of person. She hasn't gone into the next phase of her life yet, which is the phase of I am somebody's mom in this movie.
Yeah.
And that's right around the corner for her. And that's going to be, it'll be a flip on her career.
Well, let me tell you, boys, that movie is already here. It's 2018's Can You Ever Forgive Me? And she is fantastic in that. She is going to have a long career after she decides to put down the comedy, hat and everything. And that movie was fantastic. It's got her, Richard E. Grant is in it.
Is that the one where she forges manuscripts or something?
Yes.
I've heard about it, never seen it.
It's fantastic. Do yourself a favor. It's the best thing that she's ever been in, and will really let you know that I think that she is riding this train right now because it's what she can do at this point. You make hay while the sun is shining, and I think that's what she's doing. And then once she's she's just hit 50 years old, so I think that we're going to start seeing this wane off and go in more towards her more serious side of her career. And frankly, I think she has the skills to pull it off. And I think even some of that is shown here in this movie. Like you said, Sean, it's those moments where she's kind of by herself doing her own thing. It wouldn't be funny unless it was her. That is all acting. That's coming from her acting, and it's spilling out there for you. And she has that it thing that you're looking for, in a Hollywood star.
Well, you do have to be happy for her that she found success. When did Bridesmaids come out? Because that really was a breakout, like we said. That's not a recent movie, right?
No, but that's basically what I'm talking about, because that movie is older than you think. It's at least 10 years old.
Could you imagine what the 90s were like for her trying to break into show business, and your first cousin is Jenny McCarthy, who claims to be doing comedy? Just to be judged on that level has got to be rough for her, knowing that you are way more talented but also way less successul.
Bridesmaids was a decade ago, 2011. So, man,
that's about what I thought.
Yeah.
But she's been, but if you take all the work that she's done between then and now, she has not stopped working. So
no. And because here's the thing with her is that you're always going to need blue collar people in all of your movies and TV shows. It's people that you need. It's people that you might not even recognize, or you recognize them just from their face, like worker bee type actors. And she definitely could have had a career just doing that, and she would have been very successful doing that. But then she caught fire, and I think that she deserved it, quite honestly. She's doing a service for, people who look like her, where, like I found myself rolling my eyes a little bit at the Chicago stuff when they're shooting in Atlanta.
There's so much Atlanta in this movie. It is like I recognize rooms that I've been in.
and so like, I find myself rolling my eyes, but that stuff's always going to play. When you think of like Bill Murray and Ghostbusters, when you think of things like, like that type of character, that's going to go a long way forever. And she's kind of tapped into that because now she, like it or not, she is the new blue collar voice.
And, I can also speak for a huge swath of rural America. When I was growing up as a kid in the middle of nowhere, never been nowhere, like to my mind, there was no difference between Cincinnati or New York City, So for a lot of folks, as long as it looks kind of like a city, it works, whether it's up north, down south, to the east or to the west.
Yeah, but I mean, it is one of those things that if you've been there, it is even worse because it is just like, wow, all right, Chicago, my foot. There's a couple of Chicago exteriors out there for sure, but most of them are all just like, I think I know exactly where that's at.
Yeah.
But it's what was kind of cool about it is that it didn't have to rely on like a buttload of special effects or anything. They didn't try to be that kind of movie, and I'm kind of thankful for that.
Yep.
Yeah, and it was smart writing, smart production, smart directing to give them each one very specific power and something that doesn't require you to do a whole lot of crazy stuff either.
Yeah, exactly. We don't get too far into it of like, oh, you've got all these powers. You need to learn all of these things. Okay, you're strong. You're just super stronger than ever, and you can turn yourself invisible. Boom, we're done. We don't have to waste too much time with it. When in other movies, they would just go like, oh, they get all the powers. And I like how the powers are kind of separated. And it's like, if any of these, you could have used that one instead of this one. I thought that was, again, a fresh take, something that we haven't seen before.
I wonder if this launches a franchise.
It depends on whether or not she has a Netflix deal, does she?
I don't know. That's kind of like what I'm wondering. And I don't even know the details of how those Netflix deals work. I still sometimes get puzzled to discover how does Netflix even measure success, but I could see where they're slowly building and, they've got 3 members of the team by the time this movie's over. They get one more and they're like the all-girl Fantastic Four. So maybe they invert it and they bring a guy in for that 4th spot or something. I don't know. But I'm just kind of wondering, like it seems written in a way that it could continue if Netflix and McCarthy and Falcone and the people involved decided to continue it.
Yeah, it's definitely left open. And I think a lot like with the whatever the last Rodriguez flick was. What was the name of that stupid thing?
The Kids.
The Kids,
yeah.
And whatever the heck the name that was.
We Can Be Heroes.
We Can Be Heroes.
After the Bowie song.
And you could have came up with a better name because that stunk. I clearly didn't remember it. But I think this can be set up to be just like that one, to where, yeah, you've just got this base. If that's all you ever do, fine, it's not a big deal. But if you want to go on, that door is very clearly open.
That's interesting. You know what I just learned, because I'm going through trivia here, is that Melissa McCarthy's daughter plays the younger Melissa McCarthy in this movie.
Very cool, man. That's a way to get 3 paychecks for one family out of a movie from Netflix.
Pretty good.
Everybody in my family is getting paid. I don't care if you are 6. You're working crafty, girl. Get out of here.
Oh, too bad I don't have a Netflix deal because I got kids. I can put them to work.
I got kids I could put to work. Netflix, you just hook it up.
I can tell you that Mel Gibson has like 20 kids. It's something ridiculous. It's like 12 kids that he has back before we all knew he was, troubled.
Well, after 12, you should, after even 10, you should probably start going, something's not normal here.
And well, yeah. And all of his children work on his movies, like all of them.
But they like hold boom mics and stuff, right? They're not in front of the camera.
They're not camera. They're not talent. They work behind the camera. Yeah.
Yeah. That's kind of what I meant. Like they're crew. That's the word I'm looking for.
Not camera
Crew.
ready, if you will. They're ugly is what I'm saying.
No, you are wrong.
They're probably
sir.
not. No, he's a good looking man. I would imagine whoever he teamed up
And
with in
something
that
tells me
adventure
he
is probably
wasn't
pretty
ma-
good looking too.
He probably wasn't making babies with just anybody.
No,
That is
I'm
correct.
sure Mel Gibson circa, 1990, I was batting pretty good.
12 kids with 11 different Eastern European model mothers. Or something.
And
Must
that was the
be a
same lady at
drag.
the time.
Oh,
At the
wow.
time, it was still the
Good
same
for
lady.
her,
Yeah,
man.
yeah,
She
yeah.
put in the work.
Yeah.
He gets the credit, but she had 12 kids. My goodness, she's a saint.
Coming one of them Duggar kids. All right, what else we got to talk about? Bobby Cannavale.
Hold on. Let's go backwards for a second.
Okay.
Let's talk about Octavia Spencer.
Oh, please, yes.
Because it's the most important casting role in this movie, because you need someone who you believe is smart enough to come up with this stuff, but also is wants to use the superpowers themselves. So there's something inherently wrong with that person.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, little Tony Stark.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. So, I mean, you have to perfectly cast this. Iron Man got it right with Robert Downey Jr. because he seems like that kind of person. Octavia Spencer also seems like that type of person. But no one in their right mind thinks that like Chris Evans should have played Tony Stark. You know what I mean?
Yeah, didn't work.
You need the right casting, and that's why it's so perfect that Octavia Spencer is in this role. And it doesn't hurt that she also probably owed Melissa McCarthy a favor. Was like, yeah, I'll be in your movie.
I like the idea that there's just like blackmail going on to cast this thing.
Well, I don't know, because if you look at it, everybody here has worked together previously, just about, almost.
Yes.
So, I mean, her and Bateman were in a movie together, and even though that movie bombed and everything, they had enough of a good time together where he's like, sure, I'll come back. Yeah. I mean, and especially because I'm sure he still probably lives in Atlanta or has a house in Atlanta because he was doing Ozark and stuff all that time. So he's
and also
around.
the
He's
Netflix
gettable.
tie the Netflix tie probably doesn't hurt.
Doesn't hurt.
Yeah. But let's talk about Jason Bateman, because I love Jason Bateman, but I don't know if it's because he's good or I just really like the thing he does. You know what I mean? I don't know that he has a ton of range. Maybe in Ozark, we see a different side than we've seen in a lot of the others. I'll let you guys course correct me on that. You're better critics of that sort of thing.
No, he doesn't have any range at all.
Not
But he's-
particularly.
The lane he has picked is like the perfect carpool lane. You know,
This is always the way that I describe an actor like Jason Bateman. Jason Bateman behaves like Gene Hackman, where Gene Hackman is the best damn Gene Hackman in the world.
Yeah.
But he's always Gene Hackman. And it's the same thing with Jason Bateman. Jason Bateman is awesome, but Jason Bateman is always going to be Jason Bateman. Sometimes you get serious Jason Bateman, frowny face Jason Bateman, and he's just as good as sarcastically witty, offhanded comment Jason Bateman. Like, all of these things work, but it's still Jason Bateman.
What was that psychological thriller that he was in, Adam, with like somebody gave him a present and he didn't really like it?
The Gift. You were so
that
close.
was- yeah, well, that one was the closest I guess I've seen to range, but still, it's Jason Bateman.
Yeah.
I don't know. He was a very different type of character as the punk best friend in Silver Spoons.
Listen, I'll say this, Sean, you're absolutely correct, but there are some cases where that's not always the best, and I'll fight anybody on it. At least he's not like Alan Arkin. Because Alan Arkin is no one but Alan Arkin and doesn't even move the needle any. At least Jason Bateman can get happy, sad, and show us emotions. He's still Jason Bateman, but at least he has
Jason
emotions.
Bateman plus one. It's Jason Bateman plus one. Like, you got to give him something. Like, Jason Bateman plus his family was brutally murdered in front of his face. Like, that kind of thing. Whereas with Alan Arkin, it's Alan Arkin done.
Yeah, that's
there's
true.
No plus one. There's no plus one.
His name is just
There's
Alan
no
in the
point
script.
in having Arkin audition, right? Because you know where that's going to go.
You know exactly what you're getting with him. He's a double hitter, like he'll get you a double, but don't look for the big dinger with him.
I'll show up, I'll remember all my lines, and that will be that. And that's it. That's all he does. And yeah, sure enough, he does a good enough job. It's very serviceable.
He's great.
Very serviceable.
He is the best Alan Arkin in the damn business.
But it drives me up the wall sometimes.
Are those crab arms actually a superpower? Like, I can't see how having crab arms gives him any kind of advantage over human arms.
Well, it's not all mutants have the good powers. You remember that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I know, but you also, rather than joining a crime gang, if your powers disable you, maybe you just go get some rehab. You live in a skilled nursing unit or something. I don't know.
You just like, look, man, you got crab arms. Why don't you just try to make your life like everybody else? Go fit in and go to the grocery store just like every other person does, but just because you have crab arms. Is that what you're saying?
But you know what it reminds me of is have you guys ever been not like a D&D style game? Have you ever played those style games before?
Look who you're talking to.
Well, okay. So if you're playing one of those style games and eventually somebody joins your quote campaign unquote who's like half there. They only want to hang out. They don't want to do the thing. Yeah. And that's fine. Like, I get it. That person who's like halfway there is the person who comes up with crab arms. You know what I mean? Like, I guess I'm this person, but I got crab arms.
Yeah, crab arms is cool.
It's like a horse, but it's with my face, like that kind of thing. Like that, it's that kind of thing, and it feels like almost on purpose that you bring in Jason Bateman to play that, because it's just a half measure. It's like, look, I can be super, but I don't really want to be super. Just give me like some crab arms or something to put on, and that'll be my power, I guess.
I love how his move, whenever he's walking, he crabs walks left to right or right to left and clicks his hands at the same time, holds them up and clicks them as he crab walks side to side. Fantastic.
That's going the extra mile. I don't know if you give the credit to the director or the actor, but somebody's got an Oscar in their future.
It's so good, and he's practically looking at the camera while he's doing it, so it almost makes it more scary, really. And did he also imply that like more of the lower half was maybe crab?
Well, he got bitten on the genitals, so that's the root of his power. Bitten by a radioactive crab on the junk.
I love how we have this conversation with the two of them at dinner, and it's all just like, oh yeah, and it leads to like the grossest recurring joke in this entire movie is that she loves to eat raw chicken because there's an amino deficiency or something that all of this thing did, and she just can't get enough of raw chicken. Which, wouldn't you know it, the crab also loves raw chicken.
Pretty disgusting.
It's so gross.
Also, I will tell you, that is when Ms. Sweet Johnsy was out.
All I'm thinking is,
I'm done now.
It looks so good. I just want to know what it was. What did the prop department use here?
It is an Asian pear.
Okay, good. Thank goodness, because I'm worried maybe these guys were getting really method. Like, Nicolas Cage makes this movie. He's eating raw chicken.
Listen, I just want to do
Asian pear.
Good.
Because it was just the right color and flexibility and everything to where it looks so good, and I was just like, oh, just make your skin crawl.
I was thinking it was like not even food based, like some kind of silicone product or something.
Yeah, like a I don't know, but totally bizarre, and I love that it kept coming up and stuff. And
I did not love that it kept coming up. I would have been perfectly fine if they grilled the chicken before they ate it.
It's just like, can't you be normal and grill your chicken like everybody else?
At least sear it, get rid of the salmonella and that stuff.
I was confused that maybe Bobby Cannavale keeps wanting to be called the king. And I didn't put together specifically why all the time. Did that make sense to anyone?
He wanted to be the king, man. Like, instead of king, he wanted to be the king.
All right. It felt like a joke that they kept trying to ring that bell, and I'm like, I still don't think it's particularly funny. Okay.
I'm going to just go ahead and say I didn't find many of the jokes funny, and I do not have a high bar for what I'll laugh at.
That's true. We do know that. I don't know. I probably should have written some of them down, but like there were a couple of times in here where it was.
I mean, Abe Froman wasn't Sausage King; he was the Sausage King.
True.
Same idea.
And Melissa Maleo, I don't know why we necessarily have to have her role. She's fine. She's good for what she does, but like the character doesn't bring too much there other than to be the kind of babysitter of the Tracy character, which is Octavia Spencer's daughter.
Maybe that was a favor called in the other direction. Maybe Melissa Leo just wanted some work.
Well, we got 2 Oscar-winning actresses here. She's won one, and Octavia's won one. So it's not a bad group to be in. And I wish Melissa Leo would be in more high-profile things and stuff because she's still very, very good.
What do you think Mantis brought to the movie? Palm Clementif. Am I saying her name correctly?
Better than I would have. I'm confused about her because we've seen her in 2 roles so far, 2 big ones that we would remember. This and from Guardians 2. I can't put a beat on her yet. I don't know if she's obviously good looking. She's got that.
As far as her acting is concerned, I don't know what they asked her to do here.
Yeah.
So I don't want to be too rough on her, but I feel like if she does have limitations, they fit that ultra literal character of Mantis to bounce off of Dave Bautista perfectly. Like Bautista, probably not going to have a real nuanced acting career, but he's great as Drax. And then I think she's great as Mantis, but now seeing her here, I wonder if she's great at Mantis because she wasn't doing that as a shtick, but maybe that's kind of how she is.
I mean, she's French, so I feel
she's French Canadian. It's just a little different.
Well, IMDb just said French actress. Well, okay, I see.
Well, maybe
Quebec.
she is French. I could be very wrong.
No. It says I scrolled down and it says Quebec. So you're right, but it is odd that they put French there because that's not France, pal. Good job, IMDb, killing it as always.
It might even be a situation she was born in France and moved to Quebec when she was 2 years old or something.
But I can't wait to see her in Suicide Squad or The Suicide Squad, whichever James Gunn's version is, the one with or without the article. Because I want to see more from her because I feel like there might be something here, or is she just the pretty girl who does all this weird kind of crazy stuff? I'm not there yet.
What role is she playing in the Suicide Squad? Do you know? Does anybody know?
Not off the top of my head.
Because it would be kind of cool. The guy who created Mantis left Marvel, went to DC, and basically just brought Mantis with him with a slightly different name. So it'd be funny if she was that character.
She may not.
To me, it would be funny.
Well, maybe she's not. I thought she was. Well. Anyways. Well, let's get down to it because how much more do we have to talk about this? Not a ton. Because let's be honest.
Big finale. It had a big finale where, the classic action movie, superhero movie thing where you can just pick it apart. Because if you have super strength, why don't you just throw the bomb into the lake instead of grabbing it and jumping into the lake? You know? But of course, her suit protects her from that extreme explosion. Even her uncovered face is protected by the suit. So that was nice.
It's a micro shield that comes up in a blink of a second. They don't even bother with that. It's just called "Shut Up." You've been watching this far. If you bought it at this rate, who cares? All right, so let's get down to it. Before we give our final review here, we do have to ask ourselves one very important question. It is, how does this movie relate back 1-to-1 with Sylvester Stallone?
Why, thank you, Adam. I have a prepared statement. Dear Sylvester Stallone, if you ever listen to this, I want you to know that this is the 351st time Hero Movie Podcast has done this. If this is the first Stallone bit you're listening to, let me just say that you're probably not going to like a lot of these. If it were me, I wouldn't, and I'm a pretty easygoing guy. I'm thinking of turning all of these into something. I have no idea what. I don't know why anyone would ever buy a dumb book of these compiled together. I've decided for at least the time being, I'm going to start writing these bits directly to you, Sylvester Stallone. So, Sylvester Stallone, I've spoken about just about I could have written that better, Sylvester Stallone, every part of your career at this point. But there was a movie you did back in 2014 called Reach Me. If I ever need a connection betwixt you and former rapper Nelly, well, I got that bad boy in my back pocket. We even spoke about the Bollywood movie you had a cameo in, but I'm not going to try to pronounce it because I'm sure I'll butcher it like Bruce does with the names of any ethnicity, even the easy ones. Honestly, Sly, I think he does it on purpose because he wants to see what people will do in response. Sylvester Stallone, this is the part where I tie it all together and show you how you relate to this movie. You see, in 1979, you were on an episode of The Muppet Show. I've seen it. You were great. Jason Bateman, who plays the role of the Crab on Thunder Force, was also on The Muppets, although it was during a time when no one watched the show, 2015. If someone happened to be a Muppets fan, even though they happened to be an adult, they would tell you that particular version of The Muppet Show was terrible because no one who wrote on that show seemed to realize that Kermit isn't a douchey LaRue. But Jason Bateman, he was awesome on that show. And there it is, Mr. Stallone. That's how you're connected to this movie, Thunder Force. I hope to hear from you soon. As I said before, this is the 351st time we've tried this bit. I'll do better next week. Thank you. Your new best friend, Sweet Shanzi from the internet.
That's how I always like to try to end stuff in. It's like, I'm going to shoehorn myself into this one if I possibly can. How do you think we got all these podcasts? So let's get down to it. Here at Hero Movie Podcast, we have our own patented Robin rating system. If you would like to see that, head on over to our subreddit, reddit.com/r/Hero Movie Podcast. Bruce, where does Thunder Force fall on the Robin rating system for you?
You know, I didn't like it that much, but it's going to be good fun for the right people. And like I said in the Comic Connection, if you're, a 40-something mom who just wants to be able to see somebody that you can relate to and have your same kind of like superhero fantasies that maybe your kids and your husbands and stuff are having, you'll probably find some charm in it. If you like Melissa McCarthy, no matter what she's in, you've already seen it, so you don't care about my rating. But I do think there's enough there to give it that Damian Wayne where some people are going to like it, some people aren't.
Sean, what do you got?
Yeah, it's a low Damian Wayne for me. I think that, it's completely forgetful, this movie. It's as forgetful as that Robert Rodriguez thing that we saw earlier this year, where, we're going to just blow past this and we're never going to think about it again, most likely. I think that it's inoffensive. There's a gross part or two in it, especially with the raw chicken, but that's about it. Like everything else about it, it's cute. Like it's a cute. That's the best way I could describe it. If somebody were to say to me, "What do you think of that movie?" I go, "It's cute."
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fairly, like you said, inoffensive. You're not going to watch it and just be like, oh, it's just stuff like jokes in really bad taste. There's not a ton of that. There's like a little bit of, PG-13 comedy, but it's PG-13. So it's just, to me, it was a lot more fun than I expected it to be. Maybe it's because I had such low expectations coming in because it was not high on the list, but I was looking forward to doing it for this show, maybe if nothing to bag on it. But I can't find a ton to bag on. Is it perfect? No. Is it the most hilarious thing you'll see? Likely not. But like you said, if you're the right kind of person and you just feel like I want to watch something, it doesn't need to have me turn on my brain all that much. And by the end of it, I'll have had a couple of laughs and been like, oh, that was an all right time. That's exactly what this movie is. It's an all right time. I think I'm going actually high Damian Wayne on this. So we got a low, medium, and high Damian Wayne, I think. So there you go. That's where this is at, everybody. Not too shabby. That will do it for this episode of Hero Movie Podcast. We'll talk about what we're doing next week in just a moment. In the meantime, Bruce, where can we find more of your work on the internet?
I'm always inviting people to join the party on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/C/Bruce Leslie. Have a great Baron Zemo video up you can check out, talking every Sunday just on whatever's on my mind. Flag Smasher, Johnny Walker, all kinds of good stuff there. Please show the love and come subscribe to the channel. I'm appreciating the support I've gotten so far, but I still got a ways to go. So please help me out.
Even if you can't spell Bruce Leslie, if you're like me and have a hard time spelling things, the link for it is right in our show notes. So pick up the show notes there, see Bruce on YouTube, click that, boom, you're off and running right there. So you got zero excuses. Sean, what else?
We've got an exploratory scout ship of a podcast called The Falcon and the Winter Soldier 30 Questions, where each week, new episode comes out, new episode of the podcast comes out. Check that out. It's pretty great.
Yeah, we're getting to some good time over there. And, of course, The Film Find is back, everybody. So in the last 2 weeks, I put out 3 new episodes. More are on the way, so check out The Film Find wherever you find podcasts. I'm getting excited to go back and doing that a bit more recently, or regularly is the word I was looking for. So this is it, the last week of the month. I don't know where. Oh, yeah. Oh,
no,
I'm sorry.
No, it's not last week of the month.
No.
Nowhere
Next
near
week.
it.
Next week is the last week of the month, right? It is, because that's usually our Patreon week. We got a bigger drop than that. That's right, theaters and at home and on HBO Max, so there's no reason to miss it. Next week we're going to be covering Mortal Kombat. I put it up to the Patreon supporters as a vote to see what they wanted to do. They wanted us to do Mortal Kombat right off the bat, so we're doing Mortal Kombat come next week. Like I said, HBO and theaters, so get on it, everybody. So that is it. Patreon.com/HMP. Until next week, for Sweet Sean's a Kovacs from the internet, Bruce Leslie, I'm Anna Fortress. Stay super, everybody.
Bye, Marty and Evie.
There used to be a graying tower alone on the sea. You became the light on the dark side of me. Love remains a drug that's the high and not the pill. But did you know that when it snows, my eyes become large and the light that you shine can't be seen? I can pay you to a kiss from a rose on the grave. Ooh, the more I get of you, the stranger it feels, yeah. And now that your rose is in bloom, a light hits the gloom on the a man can tell me, so much he can say. You remain my power, my pleasure, my pain, baby. To me, you're like a grown addiction that I can't deny. Won't you tell me, is that healthy, baby? But did you know that when it snows, my eyes become large and the light that you shine can't be seen? Baby, I can pay you to a kiss from a rose on the grave. Ooh, the more I get of you, the stranger it feels, yeah. Now that your rose is in bloom, a light hits the gloom on the grave. There is so much a man can tell me, so much he can say. You remain my power, my pleasure, my pain. To me, you're like a grown addiction that I can't deny. Now won't you tell me, is that healthy, baby? But did you know that when it snows, my eyes become large and the light that you shine can't be seen? Baby, I can pay you to a kiss from a rose on the grave. Ooh, the more I get of you, the stranger it feels, yeah. Now that your rose is in bloom, a light hits the gloom on the grave. Yes, I can pay you to a kiss from a rose on the grave. Your rose is in bloom, a light hits the gloom on the grave.